Why did I decide to become a herbalist? That's a story. It's a story because so much of what we do in our life is a result of things that happen, circumstances, maybe scary circumstances like it was with me, but they lead to something beautiful. So even in our most challenging times, it's so important to remember it's not always going to be this way. As I said in my other video, there is nothing more constant than change. There's nothing more constant than change. Don't forget that. It's an important point because even when you're in the most dire circumstances, your health, your finances, whatever it is, it will change. It has to. Nothing ever stands still. And it's important to remember that. So when I was 19, I got married at 18, had my first son at 19. I had a fantastic pregnancy. I ended up giving birth to him by cesarean, which was disappointing for me. I had my whole dream of, the perfect labor, delivery, the whole thing, right? And seldom does life ever turn out the way that, especially for us authors who have vivid imaginations, we can see the whole scenario, everything hunky-dory, but no, it didn't work out that way. But in the end, of course, it worked out wonderful because I have my beautiful son and he was a wonderful baby. But I got very sick after he was born. I had gained pretty much the normal amount of weight that you would gain when you're pregnant. I was right within, normal 20, 30 pounds or whatever it was. I don't know. Anyway, I lost the weight within days of him being born, which was unusual. And by the time he was a month old, I had lost another 20 pounds, which on my frame at the time, I basically looked anorexic. I was so thin. I look back on pictures of me holding my son. I look like I'm 12 years old. Like, it was scary. And I didn't know what was going on. So I went to my doctor and he told me that I had hyperthyroid. And I was like, great. What's that? So he explained that my thyroid had gone out of balance, and I was getting too much thyroid hormone, which was speeding up my metabolism, speeding up my heart, everything. And at the same time exhausting me. So I had no energy. And it was dangerous, very dangerous. And so he said to me that as soon as I was finished nursing my son, he needed to treat me. So I said, okay, well, what are the treatment options? Well, it was medication, synthroid, synthetic hormone, and also, I don't think the initial one, because that would have given me more hormone, but I can't remember what he was prescribing, but he also said that I could get my thyroid radiated, so it would kill part of my thyroid. And I was like, well, that doesn't sound like a good option. And he said, well, then yes, we might kill too much of it, and then you would end up being on synthroid, the thyroid hormone, for the rest of your life. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like a great plan. And I couldn't make a choice, right away anyway, because I ended up getting pregnant again soon after. I stopped breastfeeding and then in quick succession had 2 more children. My doctor was getting more and more worried about me. So I ended up struggling for quite a while with my health and trying to keep up with babies and breastfeeding, making milk. My body was exhausted. So by the time I had my daughter, I needed to fix this. It wasn't going well. So I decided that I was going to do some research. I didn't like the options that my doctor was presenting to me. And my mother had raised me very healthy. She made all her own food from scratch. She used to even grind wheat to make flour, to make her bread. Like, she was absolutely against anything processed. And I'm really grateful for that. And there's a lot of stuff I'm not grateful for, but that is one thing I am very grateful to my mother for. And so I had that mindset of nature being the best way. And so I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and find. And that, of course, was in the days before the internet, before maybe too much information is at our fingertips, because none of it is vetted. So we have to be very cautious with what information we discover online. So I went to books. I've always gone to books. I'm a big reader. I write my own books now. I went to books and I searched for the information. And one of the books I found actually changed my life. It was Dr. Abravanel's Body Type Diet. And I don't believe in diets per se, unless it's maybe an elimination diet or something that you do for a period of time for healing. They can be great. But diets overall, they don't work, because it needs to be a new way of eating. If you're going to change your eating, you change your eating and you live that way, right? So this body type diet was based on your body type. And the basis of that determination was, what is the prominent gland in your body? And I won't go into all the details. I mean, if you want more information on it, let me know. But it is Dr. Abravanel's Body Type Diet. So I determined very quickly and very obviously that I was a thyroid type. The thyroid was the dominant gland in my body. So my thyroid was worn. It was worn from stress. It was worn from the foods I was eating, because I was eating to cope rather than eating to nourish my body. And so I looked at what his recommendations were. And one of the things that he said was that I needed to feed my adrenal gland. And to feed it properly, then it would help to balance out my thyroid. So one of the things he said that I remember specifically was to eat 2 eggs every day. I've continued that for most of my life. Pretty much every day I eat 2 eggs. And that protein has been so good for me. Now, there's different eggs, different quality. Here in Greece, we eat the village eggs. That's what they call them. Horiatiki avra is what we call it. Village eggs. So whenever we go into the shop, we always ask for the village eggs. And so I started eating 2 eggs every day. Kalimera. I eliminated a lot of the things that were hard on my thyroid, such as white flour and too much starch, too many potatoes, too much white flour, coffee, anything with caffeine, all of those things. I mean, I ate a pretty decent diet. I always have, but I was drinking a lot of coffee. I was eating a lot of carb-rich foods that were giving me that quick energy, but they really weren't sustaining me. And so I followed it. And then one other thing that I started doing was I started taking kelp. Because in the books I was reading, it talked about kelp having natural iodine. And I thought, well, if the doctor's going to give me radioactive iodine, why not just take the natural version? So I did that. And it was remarkable. It was remarkable. I immediately started to see changes. And of course, being only I guess at this time I was about 22. But being so young, my body just started healing very quickly. And that's the nice thing. If you catch it early, you have a way better chance of success. So I started seeing results immediately. And then I went to see my doctor. And, I had regular appointments with him. And he said, you know what, Brenda, this has gone on far too long. I'm going to send you to an internist because I'm worried about your heart. I'm worried about, your health overall. So he sent me to an intern. So I guess I'm running out of time. So watch part 2 for the results of my test at the intern.